What up, peeps? Friendly neighborhood Monomojos here, speaking to you in the wake of the President's State of the Union address. Earlier this morning, I had my celebratory cigar. Now I'm having my pensive pipe. I know some people are disconcerted by the props, but they help me think. And a lot of this stuff is extemporaneous, so please bear with me. For those of you who are interested, I plan on only doing maybe one vlog a week, probably in the middle of the week. So it's not gonna be the main focus of the blog. There may be exceptions based on events. For instance, Sunday I made one vlog right before church. It was kind of cold. I was wearing my woolen cap. Then when I was driving home, I got a Gmail from a friend who was informing me about the swanky thing at the Ritz-Carlton. So I decided I had to really, and he wrote a very eloquent letter, so I decided I had to do something right then. So I didn't post it until the next day. I pray you forgive me. Anyway, I'm going to try to keep these as short as possible because they're not the main thrust. As you know, I've written something up above. And, feel free to comment on the things up above. If you remember anything that strikes your fancy about commenting on the video portion, then feel free to do so as well. Anyway, so let's get right to it. Okay, it was a bravura performance as I predicted. I mean, I was just sure about it. There were a couple of things going into the backstory that I think are significant, and one of them is that Trump was putting out some information, disinformatia specifically, which kind of got the juices going for the mainstream media, the left. Oh, this is going to be a bipartisan speech. It's going to be inclusionary. Trump is going to cave. That's what they were hoping. Well, none of that happened, although it was inclusionary. By all means, it was inclusionary. He used the word we or our about 150 times each, 130 times like that. He only used the word I think about 30 times. My God. As Rush Limbaugh said earlier, Obama would use the word I 100 times within the first two paragraphs. I mean, this is the only man in history, in the history of human civilization, who wrote not one but two autobiographies, both before he was 40 years old. I mean, even Churchill, was in his 70s before he even started writing about his, his exploits as a young man. And he had real exploits. So, anyway, what did Trump do? He baited them. They took it. And he sprang the trap from under them. He pulled the rug out from under them. This was a masterful speech. It touched all the right points. I can't disagree with any of it. And the climax of the entire speech was when he said, there was so much, but there are several things that stand out, but the one thing that stands out, if I had to choose, would be when he said, Americans are dreamers too. That is what's going to be remembered. Okay? Americans are dreamers too. He stole the thunder of the Democrats and the left. He stole it and reappropriated it. Very significant. And then he came out with a plan, a broad plan which will solve everything, a broad plan which has something for everybody. And he laid it on Congress' lap. Obviously, Congress is not happy, or the Democrats aren't happy, because now they have to do something, and they can't wait it out. They want to wait it out, but events are not going to allow them. Their own constituency is not going to allow them to write it out, because there's a plan in there for the dreamers. It's a good plan for them, not for us, I don't think, but for them, it's a good plan. And the dreamers are going to be pestering the Democrats to do something, to make the deal, because we're coming up on the deadline. Okay? And of course, this is going to drag out until November 2018. In doing so, it's only going to turn up the heat on the Democrats. Okay, so that's what's happening here. The other thing, the Democrats made such absolute asses of themselves when they didn't stand up for so many pro-American things. It was really bad. They should have stood up. And when Trump pointed out those two couples up there, one of whom was African American, the other one was Hispanic, whose daughters were killed by MS-13, and they were still crying. The mother of one of them was still emotional. The father was emotional, crying. They were actually crying, and the Democrats wouldn't stand up. Do you know the RNC is going to use that over and over again in the 2018 election cycle? It's like the Democrats are paralyzed, and I can't figure out why. Personally, I think it's because they bought into neo-Marxism, but that's probably it. Anyway, now let's talk about how they further screwed it up. Well, the first mistake they made was in having 5 separate responses. Stupid. Very bad. Very bad. One response. Find that one guy, that one gal, who is telegenic, articulate, can speak well, presentable, non-divisive. Have that person give the response. Instead, they got 5. Well, the first person they wanted was Maxine Waters. Finally, somebody got to them and said, well, that was strike 1. They should have had just one response. Strike 2 was they got Maxine Waters. Somebody got to them finally and said, look, she's not popular. I don't care what they tell you, she's not popular. So then strike 3 is they got rid of her. They said, honey, why don't you go over to this station over here where there are people like you, i.e. black people, black entertainment television. You can give it there, and she did. Oh, do you see what happened? The Democrats invoked white privilege. 4, they got a guy to replace her, who's a white, male, heterosexual Christian, Joe Kennedy III. I mean, can you imagine the optics of that? Already, I'm seeing on the internet that the Hispanics and the blacks especially are seething. You know, if they told Maxine, honey, you can go work in the big house. And like a dutiful little slave, she went. Okay. It's funny, isn't it? It really is. So finally, the 5th strike was Joe Kennedy. Joe Kennedy's a good guy, I guess. He's handsome in the Kennedy sort of way. But there was, the word on the street was he was drooling. There was something down here that looked like saliva. Now they're saying it was chapstick. Regardless, that's all people fixated on. I mean, if I had a booger hanging from my nose right now, it doesn't matter if I was, reciting Shakespeare. That's all you would be looking at was the booger. Okay, so he had this little saliva going here, or what we thought was saliva at the time, and it pretty much demolished his speech. So basically what we're looking at is a series of unforced errors which Trump caused them to commit. And I don't know how he does it, but he does it. And there's something in their mindset which causes them to become unhinged. Anyway, enough of that. It's at 9 minutes. Pax Robiscum. Let's love one another, and adios.